Hi, welcome to the Crafts channel. My name's Corinne Brad and today I want to show you a great organisation project, and it's also an upcycling project and it's a vinyl cutting project. It's just a bit of everything because I do like the idea of an organised house, mainly because I don't have an organised house. So I'm just going to show you a couple of quick painting techniques, then I'm going to show you how to cut some vinyl and how to add it to your drawers to make something that's just a little bit different from the normal slick white rose gold organisation things that are quite popular at the minute. So I've got a chest of drawers here. This is empty at the minute, devoid of its drawers. And you can pick up wood blanks like this from places like Hobbycraft. They have quite a good selection and they're quite sturdy. And what I've done is, you can see I've painted on this side a distressed effect because everything in my house is distressed. So to put something a bit clean and new in there would be pointless. So first of all, I'm just going to show you how I did it. What I've done originally is put a metallic silver on this. It's an acrylic metallic silver, and what it does is it means that it's a bit shiny and the paint won't stick to it brilliantly. But because I'm then using chalk paint on it, it sticks to it well enough. So we'll start with this magenta chalk paint, and don't overload the brush. And first of all, what I'd recommend you do is just do your edge like so, so that where you've got any of these joints where the wood is slotted together, you don't end up with any voids in the paint. And use a nice wide soft brush and then just drag the paint down and keep going in the direction of the wood. Now with chalk paint, it will dry quickly. It will dry especially quickly under these lights. The temptation to overwork it is very, very strong, but what will happen is if you go over it too many times, it will start looking a bit odd. And if you're trying to go over it to get rid of your brush lines, remember that where you lift the brush off the wood is where it tends to blend in better. So once you've done your top edge, if you then work from left to right to blend it in at the top, you'll eliminate most of those brush marks without overworking the paint. So I'm not going to paint this whole side because that would take too long, but you can hopefully see that there are very few brush marks on there. So put your base colour over your metallic colour. So if I turn to this side now, I've painted this completely and it's dried. I'm just going to pop it upright. And I'm just going to take a blue and you want a dampish brush because what you want to do is you just want a hint of blue over that magenta. Again, not too much, and if necessary, just tap off the excess on a saucer. And then again, working in the direction of the grain, just put a couple of strokes of wet blue, as it were, over the top of that magenta and stroke them out towards the middle. Put a bit of water on it to blend it a bit more. And I'm trusting my instinct here because actually with the studio lights reflecting off this, I've got no idea what it looks like. And then what you would do to join it in the middle is turn it around and stroke from the other side to the middle. And try and make sure that you don't get any of those little brush marks that you get when you just start applying the paint. So I'm just going to stop that there and just check that it looks okay, so it's not too distressed. And you could leave it like that if you just want half of it distressed. But then turning round to here, and I've just realised I've painted the other side of the box, so I can't actually flip it on its side anymore. This is the finished result that you'd want. And the way that we've got this paint peeling off look is with a piece of cotton cloth. Because this is chalk paint, and I want to stick vinyl onto it, I don't want to varnish it. I don't want to varnish it because it's chalk paint. I don't want to leave it as chalk paint, a nice matte chalk paint, because I'm worried that the vinyl won't stick or eventually the chalk will lift the vinyl off. But what I have found with chalk paint is if you get a cloth, rather than wax it, which again might affect the adhesion of the vinyl, if you give it a really good rub, the surface comes up almost like it's waxed. And on freshly applied paint, if you give it a really good rub and rub it hard enough, eventually it will lift off some of that underlying paint and show that metallic surface. So that's the case of it. And while you're waiting for the case to dry, you can do exactly the same with the drawers. And on these drawers, I'm just going to use a slightly different blue. And again, just stroke. Your paint on. Try and eliminate those brush marks. Water it down a bit. And actually, for a quick dry, what you can do is you can give it a good rub while the paint is still wet. Add a little bit more colour if you wish. And again, rub it well into that paint. And you start rubbing it hard enough, and you'll see that undercoat of the paler blue is starting to lift away from the metallic. So you've got a really well-worn look, which goes perfectly in my house. And ideally, you want to let that dry completely before you give it a good buff, so that you have a drawer front that looks like this. And then you can just buff it up. So it's got a sheen on it. I don't know if you can see, does that pick the sheen up on the camera there? So it's almost like it's been waxed, but it's not waxed. What it is it's a pure friction and the heat that you're creating by rubbing that cotton that's almost setting the paint. So, what we're going to end up with, hopefully, are drawers with little labels on. Now, I don't want to put cotton pads, reels of cotton, things like this. I want to put all the stuff that's hidden in various drawers in my house in one set of drawers. And it's all that peculiar stuff that you find it on the floor and go, well, where on earth did that come from? And this is why I've labelled the drawers as so. So I want to show you how easy it is to create these labels. And we do this with the Design Space program on the Cricut. And I've just got a couple of hints and tips to show you how I make my labels. Now here's a couple here that I've done. Empty, that's a lie, and on no account look in here. I've also created a box that's 4 centimetres by 10.5 centimetres because I know my labels need to fit into that box. That's the size I want them to fit into. So they all look, although I don't want this to look formal, I want it to look neat, if you get what I mean. So we'll just bring up a text box. My typeface here is called Yellow Rabbit, and it's in an italic style, hopefully. And we'll just put box of random stuff. So take your box of random stuff, and then you will see that the spacing on that between the T and the U and the N and the D is not quite how it should be. Now, there are possibly arrangements that you can change the letter spacing and the line spacing. But again, I've found, especially with italic fonts and with handwriting fonts, they don't always do it brilliantly. So what you can do is ungroup that wording, and you can select each individual letter and move it across to where you want it. The of looks okay. The box could just do with a little bit of adjustment. But the main problem is this stuff. So I'm just going to select all of those letters and group them again so that I can move them underneath the first line. Looks about in the middle. Ungroup them and just move each one across a couple of clicks, or 5 clicks in that case. And when you're happy with the spacing, select all of the letters again and group them so that you can move them into this. If you want to move them, make sure you actually click on a letter and not on the white space behind it, because that's how you get to move them. So I want it to fit into this box, but at the minute it's too wide. So all I'm going to do is unlock the dimensions and shrink it down a bit widthways. And I think that will be fine. I'm just going to lock those dimensions again. And also what I'm going to do is just get rid of that box, because I don't want that. I'm also going to change the colours of my letter to yellow, because what that does is it produces a yellow letter on a black background. You'll see why in a minute. And I'm just going to hide these other labels because I'm only going to cut one in a minute. Lost my cursor. So we'll weld them. And somehow I want to weld this one as well. Group and weld. And you can see over here they are saved as entire files, and I'm just going to hide them at the minute. So all I have is this box of random stuff. Now, if I was just to go to make this now, what would happen is the machine will automatically try and save you vinyl. It will put your carefully spaced words all in a long line. So what you need to do is cancel that. Take your box of random stuff that has been grouped and weld it. And by welding it, what it will do is it will make sure that they go together in the correct place. So now we'll come to the cutting of it, if I can find what I've done with my cutting mat. This is a well-used mat, but it's still very sticky. And although it's got bits and pieces on it, it's absolutely fine. And have I got? Oh, I think I have got. So this is fitting in an area that's about 11 centimetres by 4 centimetres. This is a piece of vinyl that is just about 4 centimetres deep. Save all your off-cuts of vinyl. Stick it on your mat and pop it into your machine. In fact, it helps if you turn your machine on. Oh, look, it's just recognised it. And on this, I'm just using the standard blade that fits into the carriage like this. I don't know if you can see that very small blade that's in the cartridge. You just pop it in, clamp it shut. Feed your mat in. And then you continue. And what this will now do is it will bring up another screen and it will ask you to select what material you're cutting. And the reason this is important on vinyl is because it will just kiss cut the vinyl, which means it cuts the actual vinyl part, but it keeps the base layer the same, so you can take it off the mat easily. So it's set to vinyl, it's a default pressure, the fine point blade in there, press the flash and go button. And it's cut. So just unload your mat, take your scraper, and then lift the vinyl and its backing from the mat. So I'll just pop that over the back safely. And here's your lettering. I don't know, you probably can't see the cut on that, but you will in a minute. Trim it down, grab your weeding tool, and first of all, you can just pull out all the centres of your letters. I won't pull them all out, but then what you do after that is you can then carefully pull away the background . Like so. And then try and pick up all these tiny bits of weeded out lettering. Actually, it's possibly easier if you take the background off first of all, because then you've got a much better view of where you need to weed out the middles of your letters. So there you've got your wording that you want to put on the front of your box. But how do you get the wording off here and onto the front of the box without destroying the spacing? And this is where transfer tape comes in handy. Just going to put this to one side. Transfer tape is just basically a sticky back plastic sheet with a grid mark on it. And what you do is you lay a piece of transfer tape over your lettering, rub it down well, flip it over, and you can peel the backing paper off your lettering. And it leaves your letters on this clear sheet. And to make sure that you've got some sort of unity to your boxes, as it were, I've found a great trick is if you get a spare piece of backing paper that won't be sticky, and you set that, let's pop that there so you can just see what I'm doing. You set that along the bottom edge of your box so it gives you a line to line your wording up to. And just hold it there in place with a couple of bits of washi tape. And I'm using the backing paper because obviously the lettering won't stick to it. I thought I'd lost my lettering then. Also, you might want to use a washi tape that actually sticks to the box. So hold it over the centre, line it up. Don't worry about the Y that's overlapping that piece of backing paper. Because once you're happy that that's in the middle and that's straight, you can just take your guideline paper off. And then rub it down. Now I have actually lost a full stop there somewhere along the line. I'll find it again another day. And just buff it down again with a piece of cloth. And because you've buffed your drawer fronts to a shiny finish, you should find that the backing paper will come off okay. Or do you know what? Little full stops can be tricky, as can the dots of your eyes. So just peel your transfer tape off carefully, like this. Because I've got an apostrophe here by the aisle. Now I can guarantee that that's so small, it's going to come off on the transfer. Oh no, there you go. I'll find that dot later. And then just give it a good press down. And with this vinyl, because the stick on it is so good, you shouldn't need to seal this afterwards. It should just be fine to keep it as it is. Or I suppose you could wax it afterwards. But again, it's one of those things, I quite like the not quite perfect look. For an organised set of drawers. And actually, I'm going to finish this project at my leisure and hope that you enjoy the demonstration and you'll do a similar thing with your storage. Because organised storage is really nice, but it's sometimes nice to make it a little bit quirky. Hope you enjoyed that demonstration. Come and see us again very, very soon for more ideas for upcycling, for using electronic cutting machines, for just making your home more decorative. In the meantime, please keep safe and thank you very much for watching. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.